No one's saying we want to go back in time, but John Gray's big preeminent point here is to respect. It's a breather with insights from Dr. John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, because we can never, ever get enough reminders, primers, and insights from the one and only John Gray, possibly my favorite podcast guest ever, the one who inspired me to propose to Mia Moore the day after our first show. And it's been so great getting to know him. I can't wait to attend one of his live couples weekend retreats, and I will report back. I'm sure that will be a fantastic experience coming up soon. But for now, we have a quick reminder and a recap of the essential male and female relationship assignments, especially as it pertains to the very familiar rut that couples can fall into after years together, where they're still together, but there's a tiny bit or a lot of bit of dysfunction, and we get trapped into these patterns. And John Gray has some great ideas to immediately extricate from this rut and dysfunction and rekindle the passion and the great communication and the respect and the fun and the joy of being in a romantic partnership for the long term. But the foundational premise of his great book, Beyond Mars and Venus, is that males and females have deep-seated, hardwired biological drives. We're different. Obviously, the whole foundation of his brand, right? However, today in modern culture, with the ever-evolving modern culture, we are by and large agreeing that this is progress to help us evolve out of those dated, stereotypical roles, because we all deserve to, continue to pursue personal growth and awakening and live the lives that we want and have the freedom to choose whatever lifestyle pattern that appeals to us, rather than be locked into the man is the breadwinner working at the factory and the woman is home making meals and looking after kids. But we cannot reject the importance of how these foundational biological drives influence our preferences and our behaviors today. So what we're trying to do is navigate modern life and still nurture our hormonal optimization. Some of this advice is controversial because lots of modern relationship advice is driving, aligned with the evolution of culture, right? So one of the things that's happening is we want the partnership to serve all of our needs, whereas before the community met quite a few of these needs. So the women would go to the hair salon or the bridge club and talk and talk and talk and come home feeling renewed and connected and not have to jabber to their male partner when maybe that wasn't that interesting or that wasn't a good match for the conversation. And the men, of course, had their boys' time, watching sports, playing in the bowling league, tinkering around with the car in the garage. And now, because of the increased isolation and the influence of digital technology on our lifestyles, we are kind of asking our partner to be a lot of things that the community was in prior eras. So, personally, we now expect the modern evolved female to be that natural nurturer and caretaker that is their deepest biological drive, and go out there and get an education and kick butt in the workplace. And John Gray calls it the home CEO. So we're applying these competitive attributes, which John Gray describes as one's male side, or you could call it the yin energy that the female is obligated to express in a workplace environment, and then also go home and be the nurturer caretaker. And so what he contends is that we have now record rates of anxiety, depression, and prescription medication use among the modern evolved females because we are asking too much of the harried, overstressed soccer mom. And when things get out of balance hormonally, when the female is stuck over on her male side, producing too much estrogen, or diminishing her estrogen instead of nurturing it and having a healthy amount of estrogen, She gets stuck in this pattern to where she likes to say, I'll do it, I'll take care of it, rather than relying upon her male partner for help. She tries to do all and be all to everyone. So it's the harried, overstressed pattern of the mom where we ask too much, the female today asking too much in the workplace and also in the nurturer, caretaker, natural role. And how about the male side? Of course, we expect them to go and kick ass in the workplace and honor their most prominent biological drive, which is to conquer one's environment in a competitive setting and be recognized and rewarded for such. Those are the male drives, deep-seated. But we also want the modern male to be evolved and woke and open and honest and vulnerable and capable of sharing feelings and bonding and connecting rather than just being a gruff money earner who comes back and kicks down the easy chair and relaxes and doesn't say much. So what we have as a consequence of this is the male being pulled into this uncomfortable role of being the confidant and the conversation partner of the female who's venting about their busy, stressful day. And what happens is they start to shut down and pull away. So we have record rates of males being shut down, disengaged, and then pursuing all manner of unhealthy distractions and vices to get through the day, to get through life. So there is our classic modern relationship rut driven by hectic, high stress modern life and a desire to evolve culture and evolve the traditional male female roles, which I'm going to say, quote unquote, worked at some level. You might have seen your parents or grandparents and their cute little sedate interactions where there was never any of the drama and the conflict that we have in modern relationships because they are so much more evolved. So no one's saying we want to go back in time, but John Gray's big preeminent point here is to respect these deep biological drives and try to navigate modern life accordingly. This is just to recap the anatomy of an argument, as John describes it. A woman is unhappy, anxious, and stressed because of her obligation to perform these disparate roles. And so what she needs in her deepest biological sense is she needs to vent. And the assignment for the man is to sit there and allow your female to vent about her busy, stressful, hectic day without interrupting or offering advice or solutions. The female is not looking for solutions. She is looking for someone to just simply listen and pay attention and express interest. And as I mentioned previously, this was what was taken care of at the hair salon or the bridge club, and now she's asking her partner to do it. So the man who's trying to honor his deepest, most prominent biological drive is to give advice, solve problems, and to be seen as the hero in the story. So the man needs to tone that down, needs to navigate his wiring and his urge to interrupt and say, well, why don't you just tell your boss? Nope. Need to sit there and listen quietly and express interest. Um, and that's how the argument starts, is the man jumps in with his advice. The female rejects the advice because she's just trying to vent, and she gets further frustrated at receiving advice or solutions. And a rejected male whose advice is discounted gets a little lit up, as you can imagine. The argument escalates. Emotional bruises occur from these arguments, and these emotional hits create scarring, distance, and time required to heal, or they just simply fester and don't heal. Okay, so now it's time for the assignments. So the male assignment is to indulge these Venus talks without interrupting or offering advice. And then, in general, the biggest picture assignment is to be the Kung Fu master, as John Gray calls it. That is to remain calm, cool, and collected under all circumstances. Today, the female's biggest fear in primal times, it was being eaten by predators, right? And so she needed a stronger physical presence, which is how the original male and female biological drives came to be, right? So today, we're no longer worried about the predator attacking our campsite, and so the biggest fear of the modern female is the anger of her partner. And when you lose your cool, when you depart from your higher intelligence and trip into anger, frustration, and argumentativeness, that is the female's biggest fear come true. So John Gray wants you to quote, rise above the lower intelligence of the emotional brain and always be rational. The next assignment is to realize that small things matter and be always ready to help and to listen. He gave the example on our most recent podcast that if you bring home a dozen roses, yes, you score some points. That's so sweet. But if you were to bring home one rose, you would score, in many ways, the same number of points. And if you were to bring home an expensive diamond ring, it would score the same number of points as one rose or 12 roses because it's the thought that counts. You can't buy your way into the affection of your female because what she most wants is for you to control your anger, number one. And then number two, for you to be ready to help and listen. Always take time to respond rather than react. So you're controlling your anger, you're controlling your emotions, you're being a kung fu master. It doesn't mean you have to be quiet and not express your feelings, but you're very patient and measured with your responses. This instruction applies with the greatest intensity and the highest stakes in your love relationship, but it also applies to every other interaction that you have in life. Think about your conduct in the workplace. And as Esther Perel says, you should treat your wife, your partner, like you treat your best client. How about that for an edict? Of course, you're going to keep your cool with your best client when they get a little frustrated or express some emotion to you. You have no problem doing that unless you're a complete idiot, like former NBA player Matt Barnes, who just lost his job because he lost his cool at a high school basketball game, one in a litany of misbehaviors off the court in real life for this hothead guy that can't keep his cool. So the number one advice is to be that kung fu master. I'm sure you have fears and stresses and anxieties. Guess what? John Gray asserts, do not talk to your spouse about your fears in your career or your financial matters or your existential crisis. Choose someone else to talk to it about, one of your buddies. Um, when you say things like, quote, my feelings were hurt when you were talking to Gary in the corner for so long at the party, when you say my feelings were hurt to your female partner, this is death to the relationship, end quote. Yep, as I said, some of this advice is controversial because we don't want to stuff our feelings and all that, but you can figure out a way to say everything you need to say with loving kindness, and some things are better left unsaid. You don't have to spew all your little petty angers and frustrations to your female partner. You need to be a pillar of strength, and that's when your hormone levels will optimize, your testosterone will rise, and you will in turn allow your female partner's estrogen to rise so that she can be the best woman that she can be, and you can be the best man that you can be. And speaking of nurturing testosterone to help you be the best man that you can be, the essence is to engage with life, perform, compete, solve problems, be there for your partner, but also to go off and get some personal time to rejuvenate. So John Gray called it cave time in his first book. The man needs cave time to replenish and rejuvenate. Now we come to the essential female assignments. Here's an interesting insight that when the female gets out of balance from being harried, overstressed, stuck on her male side of competing and solving problems and challenges in the workplace and in the competitive setting, even if they're not in the workplace, they're in the home and they're being the home CEO, when she gets out of balance, she needs to depart from logical thinking and just vent. And ideally, she will have the male partner there to listen carefully with attention and interest, not interrupt, and not offer advice. So it is helpful to search for and find petty outside complaints in order to process through your hormone imbalance. And boy, can we think of some real life examples where females have a tendency to get into it and relate long stories about their interaction with the rude clerk at the shopping mall, where the male has a tendency to be gruff and not as expressive. And these are both in the interest of preserving our hormone balance. Because when the male gets pulled out of that calm, cool, collected kung fu master state and engaged in an argument with the female and starts to get his anger rising, quote, it never ends well, end quote, from John Gray. You always feel worse when you trip into anger, frustration, and arguing. So keep your cool, but in contrast, the female needs to lose her cool a bit in this regard and find petty outside complaints to process hormone imbalances. Now, there are some rules in place for the female here where you cannot direct your petty complaints to the male partner. In fact, the next assignment on the list is to never nitpick your partner. Realize that deep down, even if he's been kind of a jerk lately, the man wants to be the hero in the story. So you are obligated to express everything as a preference and never nitpick. You too can say everything with loving kindness if you have some critical feedback or some requests or demands. But when they come out as a preference, that's when you will get buy-in and connection from your partner rather than further distance and further arguing. And we talked about the female finding petty outside complaints to process hormone imbalance. How about not getting out of balance in the first place? And the way to do that is to nurture self-care, nurture female bonding relationships where you get your other needs met and your other hormones boosted, like vasopressin and oxytocin, when you have your time at the bridge club or time at the hair salon, chit-chatting and gossiping or whatever. And then when it comes back to the relationship, ask for help. The man is there to try to be the hero in the story and answer to your every need, big or small. And when you say, I'll handle it, I'll take care of it, that could be considered death to the relationship because that's what makes the man grow distance and become disengaged. So there you have assignments for the male and the female. Of course, way more depth and richness when you listen to my interviews with John Gray. And I actually have a full-length show going for probably close to an hour detailing these essential male and female relationship assignments. So thanks for listening, watching. Great stuff from John Gray. MarsVenus.com. You can learn more about his online courses, live events, and books.